It's explained in the Shastra to be those who are simply engaged in deity worship, and they do not know how to properly relate to devotees. I just want to serve Krishna, the deity, or I just want to serve my Guru. I cannot serve you, Prabhu, I have no time. That's not the real platform. No, we have to learn to serve the Vaishnavas, and that pleases Krishna. So we have to understand that the spiritual master is the way to approach Krishna. We have to go through him. We have to take his instructions as our life and soul. As we also spoke yesterday in Wissing in the morning, the secret of success is the pleasure of the Guru. How's it going? The last verse. Krishna.
Yasya prasadam.
Yasya prasadam. Bhagavat prasadam. Yasya prasadam nagati kutopi. Nagati. There's no gati. There's no final goal unless you please the spiritual master. You have to please him. That's the active principle. So we always have to think, our activities, is that pleasing to our Guru or our Param Guru if we don't have Srila Prabhupada? Because Srila Prabhupada, even though he is some of our Param Guru, our grandfather Guru, he's still our main Shiksha Guru for everyone, devotees emanating, having their roots in the ISKCON society. So, is this pleasing to our Guru? Is this pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, what I'm doing? So, very, very important. So, we are so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada came and spread this Sankirtan movement all over the world. Without Srila Prabhupada's mercy, without Srila Prabhupada having gone through all that austerity, where would we be today? If we look back to our previous lives before we came to Krishna consciousness, how auspicious was that? We were all suffering. We were all suffering. You may forget sometimes, but we were suffering quite a bit. I remember when I go back, it's kind of so far back, but I remember intense suffering. It was a kind of existential suffering, right? Even though, like, having everything, I had so much money and really fit and strong and friends and everything, you know, but it was just hollow. It was like nothing there. And I thought, if nothing happens, I'll either start taking drugs or I'll go up on a bridge and jump out. I was feeling intense suffering, even though I had material, was there. So Srila Prabhupada came and he gave that knowledge, and by which we can obtain the highest perfection, the highest pleasure. So we have to be very eager to dive deeper and deeper into who Srila Prabhupada is, and how to serve him, and how to serve his bona fide representative. So thank you very much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada Vyasaputya Maha Mahotsava Ki Jai. Maybe there's a question, comment, Chaitanya Prabhu?
Well, you mentioned that it's very important to examine the spiritual master very thoroughly. But in modern ISKCON, like we are normally living very far from your Guru, and you see him maybe once and twice a year. Or even same, if you're looking for a Guru, you have to travel to distant places. And it takes time. It's not something you do in a few days or even a few weeks, maybe even a few months. Sometimes it takes years before you really see behind it. We all tried, maybe we all had Gurus falling down, both of us. So in that case we thought he's a pure devotee, but were end up disappointed.
Yeah.
So what is the solution? What can people do to really examine the Guru before he...
Well, traditionally you would live with the Guru, and for a whole year he would examine you if you were qualified, and you would examine him. And we know if we live close to someone, then we cannot hide. After some time, if we have any whatever hidden agenda, any bad qualities, whatever, it'll come out. Someone may look good for some time, oh he, she is such a wonderful... If you live close to them, in due course of time, everything will kind of be revealed. That's the nature of living close together. So that was the relationship between the Guru and the disciple. He should also, the disciple had to be qualified too in order to receive Diksha and Atma Tattva, that he would give the knowledge. He had to have the right mentality, he had to be able to serve him, he had to be able to control his senses, whatever, before the Guru would accept him. So they will live close together. So how can you find out if you don't do that? And we both have the experience, yes. The spiritual master come. I remember first time Harikesh, he came and down to the temple room, and of course he was the Sonal Acharya, it was only him. But I also saw kind of like he had a lot of charisma, he had a Shakti. So he was kind of dumbfounded. Wow, he's like, yes, this is. And that was basically, I think, good for a long time, but then he fell down after some time. So the way to examine is you have to be close to them. I know another Danish in this yatra who went to examine someone, a prospective guru, and he lived with him for some time in the US. And when he lived with him very close, he found out, well, he was so much involved, he never heard him chant japa, and he was sitting at the piano a lot of the time and playing a piano, and he was treating his disciples in a kind of questionable way. I'm like, so that made him not accept that person, even though he's a big shot in ISKCON. So when you live close by, that's a way to find out. And I know, so that's the best thing, at least for some time. Of course, we cannot do it a year, and some of them are big. They're traveling around, they have so many disciples, so it's hard to get close to them. So at least you have to examine very, very closely with an open mind before your heart gets stuck. Because once you give your heart, then you have all these filters. If you hear something that maybe he's not so bona fide after all because there's whatever problems, and you read on the internet, you hear this and that, and if your heart already gone out, then you kind of tend to cognitive dissonance. You don't want to hear it. That's because you rationalize. So before getting to that state, you have to be critical. You should put critical questions out and be open. So the best thing is to you can get a lot of help today from the internet, and really do thorough research, and not kind of if anything bad you don't like to hear. No, you have to go into it and examine. Like this person I mentioned, just the latest one I hear of, a sannyasi who is not a real sannyasi because he had illicit relationships with women, and he was even at one time living in Spain and using the temple's money to pay prostitutes. He went to prostitutes, right? For years, you don't hear about it. And there was other things with younger women and like that. So that came out in one CPO case. And I just read about from this Saraswati Johnson. She's very much into exposing the rotten apples. And yes, they should be exposed because they're cheaters. They present themselves as something. It's very, very serious. You present yourself as guru, sannyasi, and you have illicit relation. You go to prostitutes. And it's not like, we're not speaking about a fall down, apichet sujara. It's not, that's another thing Bhagavatam speaks about, an accidental fall down. Then that can be forgiven. But not if you go time after time, you use the temple's money to get sexual gratification and all this stuff. It's Kali Yuga, it should not happen, right? Anyway, you have to be sure you do not submit yourself to such a person, because they're cheaters, right? So it's difficult, but we have to be very sharp, and especially if we burn our fingers already, right? Then we have to be very careful before we do it again. But also we cannot discard the principle of accepting a guru. Like me personally, I like to take reinitiation, but I have to be very careful not to get someone again who a few years later leaves, right? So my intention is to go and live close to, I have a person whom I consider my Shiksha Guru after so many years, and I go and I'm staying in his ashram, and I'm already, that's what I do when I go to Vrindavan. I'm there for 3 months. I want to spend as much time as possible there. I haven't found anything, and I've been kind of close to him for a little while last time I was in Vrindavan. So the thing, being close, and then hearing from whatever sources you can, who is that person, study his past, and like that. I would do it like that, because it's powerful. It makes another dimension, getting that connection again, living guru. You have to please the guru, right? You have to serve him. So you need a physical guru. You have to accept that. Yes, Prabhu and
Okay, I was thinking a little if we was getting, let us say, colored of our surroundings about the guru.
Influenced. Yeah.
Influence colored this way. And then you think, okay, it's nice, I think it's okay, and the others say okay, and then you get such a guru you speak about there.
Yeah.
What will then happens? I mean, he's lower than Kanista Adhikari in my way to see it. Then you get stuck.
Yeah, but then the recommendation is there in the Shastra, if the Guru falls down, if he wasn't qualified, then you have to take reinitiation, you discard him.
Yeah, but you don't fall down. According to the leaders, he's still in...
No. Yeah, but you have to use your intelligence.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
okay.
that because the leaders or whatever says he's still okay.
Yeah.
If you found out, he goes again, Macho Vega Manas, all the scriptural injunctions,
Yeah.
then you're told something that is not correct. Because you cannot be a godas, you cannot go to prostitutes, or, okay, that may be an extreme example, it happened several times before with big leaders in ISKCON, right? And outside ISKCON, it's not just ISKCON, it's very prominent in Kali Yuga. Such a person is unqualified, no matter what others say, no matter how many followers are still, we just had the example with this Anidesha Vapu, is called now, a big case really in former Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj, right?
We don't hear anything more.
No, he was very much off, very clearly not qualified, and he was stripped, as a first example, stripped of his sannyas and guruship from the leaders in ISKCON because it was so grievous. They could not, because in the past and still, they kind of cover it over, right? This camaraderie. They try to, whatever. But they couldn't do it with him. But still we had a follower here in Shiksha, a disciple here in Scandinavia, who was so attached to him that she didn't want to accept it. I followed a lot. She was from Sweden, right?
Yes.
She didn't want to accept even, it was so clear. She tried to rationalize whatever. She didn't want to see it. It's right in front of you. And that's cognitive dissonance because her heart has gone out. You rationalize, well, whatever, you use that verse from the Bhagavatam. From Bhagavad Gita, yes, you misuse it because that's accidental fall down. It's not willful, time after time again. So that's the danger. So we have to be sharp and we have to, understand within our heart, okay, I was attached, but I have to sever that attachment because he's not qualified. It's obvious. We have to do that, otherwise we're cheating ourselves. And there's also some heavy statements in Shastra. If you follow a cheater, you'll go to the same destination. And someone who's cheating, posing as guru, he'll go to hell. And his followers will follow him. So...
But then you maybe already have followed him for many, many years.
Yes.
And of course, in some
then
situation, as you say yourself, then you are much more into the whole thing. I mean, you know, but young don't know when they
It makes a difference, yes. And we have the tendency...
And some is also naive and think,
yes,
it's
very
okay,
naive.
it's okay.
Again, externals, so many followers, and he's so charismatic, and they may be, right, charismatic.
But then they also get stuck.
Yes, but that's before you get to that, you have to use your intelligence and not get into that. You have to understand. That's why we have to instruct, like a new person, not to fall into that trap, because I know it's easy. You come and everyone is like worshipping that person, and he has got charisma, he knows, good with speaking the philosophy, and expert in kirtan, and he has potency, right? But these are not the qualifications for a guru. It's external. So you have to use your intelligence. Otherwise, you have to take the reactions of your bad choice. And we have to instruct them.
Yeah.
And we up against something you mentioned yourself, the leadership says, no, he's okay or whatever. Well, we shouldn't be alert by that.
I was thinking that I was just inspired by this talk, but I had another question as well, if I may follow up with that. But as I see that we can actually examine many people at once if we examine one who has deviated, since those who cover up for such a deviator or like sinister, perhaps split-tongued. At home he speaks one thing, and in the temple he speaks another thing. Those people who are instilled in a high position as a board of members who, in association with other members, will value or devalue gurus in general in the institution of ISKCON. So if they don't stay individually focused, not getting mixed into the pool of the other group members, if they don't sincerely examine the one or all of the gurus in their batch and come clear with perhaps some discrepancies, but they try to cover, or they hatch their own opinion to someone else's opinion that he's popular, he speaks, don't touch him, we agree, we'll do such and such. Then they become associated with those deviations, because that if you cover up for a thief, you're complicit to the theft or the sins of the thief.
Yes.
So we are in great trouble actually, because as of now we have a panel of people who are supposed to value or devalue gurus in ISKCON, but we see that so many people have now fallen down, but it appears now due to diligent studies that they have been practicing as gurus for such a long time, being in a fallen condition, but this has been shaded out from the public's view by this panel themselves.
Yes.
So where do we start? Because our own senses and our own level of consciousness is not enough to come through to the proper result in this search of finding trying to find a person who is qualified. Yeah.
So
who can we trust? Will
Well,
we just pray to Prabhupada and read his books? Is that enough?
yeah, it's a big problem, because you get, as you said yourself, you get influenced, you get complicit. If you're complicit, you're covering over something you know is wrong, then you get affected, you get contaminated. And we have a clear example from Shastra, from the example of Draupadi getting disrobed, and Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev, knowing it was wrong, and they wanted to stop it, but they wouldn't do it because they were depending upon the Duryodhan and all that. So they were under the influence, and thus they didn't have, you could say, I mean, I have to use my words carefully here when you're speaking about Bhishma and Dronacharya, but they didn't have the courage in this particular incident to do the right thing, because they were depending upon someone. And that's what's going on with the leadership. They are depending upon the structure to be a guru, sannyasi in the institution, to be able to preach, and someone may have a lot of material facilities, good facilities. And if they speak the truth, and if they stand up and say this person should be removed from that position because he's not up to the standard, they know if they do that, they get into trouble. They may not be able to have that opportunity, and thus they keep quiet. They don't have the courage actually to do the right thing. And we see a few examples of someone who's actually doing it, and they may be ostracized. Like also we see in the external world, someone speaks the truth about the government, what they're doing, like with the shot and all that stuff. They get attacked, and they get, smeared in the media. They may lose their license for whatever, even though they're speaking the truth, because they go against the powers that be. And that's the same within ISKCON. the powers that be. If you go against the powers that be, you may lose your position, you may lose your advantages. And thus, they keep quiet, because we saw it very clearly in that example with Anidesha Bapu. Everyone were keeping quiet for years, and they knew what was going on. It was horrific. They knew what was going on. It came up several times in the CPO and that, but they kept quiet. So they get contaminated, they get influenced by the reactions.
Yes.
And thus, you as yourself, a sincere person, you have to ask your question, can I rely upon these people who do not have the courage to speak the truth? Who's bending to the powers that be,
Yeah.
right? That's up to each one. I wouldn't do it. And I know people here also will not do it. You have to have someone with courage.
Yeah.
Courage to speak like Prabhupada. When he was preaching, he wasn't like, he spoke very strongly. He called even some of the scientists and professor, whatever, fools and rascals. Of course. He wasn't like, oh no, we have to do the preaching like that, or like someone today. They have to like, oh no, we have to wrap it in and speak nice word. Or Prabhupada was very bold, like and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And that's really the platform. You have to speak the truth. Like, of course you have to do it with intelligence, according to time, place and circumstance, but you should not be afraid of speaking the truth. So we have to make our own choice. Can I trust such people or not?
Yeah. Because it's actually indirectly that we may consider that they are on some sort of a payroll, at least with the mercy to practice as gurus within ISKCON, underneath this body of people selected to devalue or value the gurus within ISKCON. It's a hot topic, but as you said that Drona and Bhishma Dev, they couldn't act out against Duryodhana because that they were the benefactors of his mercy in payments. They were on his payroll, so they weren't able to speak out, and thus perhaps many of the gurus they do want to reach the fallen souls with mercy, and they see themselves being targets of becoming ostracized from all of those people they are trying to reach now with the stroke of a switch. If this body of people will devalue them, even if they are not guilty of fall down. So they have to keep quiet. It's a compromise. It's a great compromise. But will we see anybody who will not be compromised by this, and still they will be able to reach us on the internet, in the ether, from country to country, because the internet is so powerful, huh?
Well, we have to know what is what, and be courageous enough to go against the stream, go against populace, go against, not think about what this group says or whatever so many says. If you know it's right, it's there in Shastra, it's based in Shastra, then you have to follow, no matter what others say.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to do, and instruct others also. Not follow someone just because the powers that be, the leadership, those in positions say so. Then it becomes, then it's not really what Krishna consciousness is about. Thank you very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.